So hi, my name is Bertalan Miklós, and I'm going to do a little React application development today. So this is the second stream of RisingStack, if I am right. I also did the last one, so let me know if everything is not correct, if you have issues with the sound or anything like that. We try to improve it progressively over the time. And just some context, I'm a full-stack developer here, we have a small team, and one of my colleagues here who is more into backend development made a little API server around a week ago. You can see the blog post about it here. It is the third or second post on the blog. And he did this little API server. It's a one command server, so it's super simple. He made this API server to learn front-end frameworks. So basically the idea is that you just fire up the server and it provides you with common things like authentication and public endpoints and private endpoints. And then you can build front ends for it in any framework. So this is the API that I am going to use, and I am building a small React app. And I already started it last week, so I'm going to continue where I left off. And let me show what we already have. So this is the current state of the React app. The API, it returns some data from Faker, that's why I'm smiling. So you get a lot of these special names like Gorgeous Fresh Bowl. So this is one of the endpoints where you can search for products, and it just returns the product and shows it to you. And the other endpoint that we are going to work on today is the authentication endpoint, because as you see, it's not implemented yet. And apart from that, I plan to do some a little bit of UX, and I would like to do something similar to Dan Abramov's Suspense, just to ride the hype train. So I'm going to show you the code so far, and then we can get started. If you didn't see the video, that's more likely. I mean my last video. Then I started it with Create React App, so you can see, probably this one tells it if you are familiar with Create React App. So you can see the standard source folder here. I just added, I'm building a 3-layer application here. So I have an API layer, I have a state layer, and I have a representation layer. So the files are organized that way. I just threw everything in the source folder because it's a small application, so I am not splitting it in smaller folders. So you can see that I have a super simple API. It's just a very small wrapper for this single endpoint for now. I will improve it later. It has some interceptors, and it fetches the data from the API server that I mentioned earlier. And then I have this state layer also. It's still very simple. And here I am using, wow, to refactor this. Yeah. So here I am using a library that is not yet open source. I just put it on the internet today in a super early pre-alpha release, but you shouldn't use it yet. So this is my React stack that I plan to open source. I am using it for routing and state management and local storage management and parameter synchronization, these kind of things. And then I have the visual layer, the view layer. I have a small navbar. I have a product list component with some products, and I have an application component. And for signing, I use the Material UI library. Let me show some Material UI. Yeah, and using this library right here. It has some pre-styled components in a Material UI style, and I really enjoy it. I just started using it like a few weeks ago, but it's super cool. So let's get into it. So you can search for stuff here, and we are going to continue with the login screen. Computer is super slow. So first, we are going to do the less exciting part. We are going to make the login UI, and then after that, we will decide depending on the time remaining. I plan to do like a 1.5 hour session probably. So let's get to the login component. As you can see, it's super simple for now. This view here is coming from my React library. It tells the component to be reactive. I will explain it later and it becomes more important. So we are probably going to need form group here from material UI form, and then also some buttons again from material UI button. I know some of these by heart, but I definitely don't know the whole library by heart. And then we are also going to need a text field from material UI per text field, I guess. It will throw an error if that's not correct. And then we are going to make a form group, and inside the form group we will have a couple of text fields. Yeah, so we will need 3 text fields because let's get to the login. Yeah, as you can see, this is the documentation for Roby's API server that we are using as a backend. And as you can see here, for the login, you need an email and a password. And for registration, you need an email, a username, and a password. So we are going to, I plan to join the registration and login screen for simplicity. So we are going to use 3 fields here. First one is going to be an email type. I will explain this name in a second. I like to do data binding this way in React. That's probably a bad name for it, but you will see. And then on change, you want to run this dot on change, and we want a label. Probably not here. Yeah, so we will need a label here. It says email, and yeah, this one is easier. This will be very similar. And the other one, it should be a password type. The name should be pass. I just looked up that in the API server. And we are going to need a password here. Yeah, sorry, I'm just checking the comments. Yeah, I am super new to this, so I always forget to look at the chat comments. I will just finish these 3 text fields, show you the result, and then I am going to check the comments. I really have to get used to this because this is my second ever streaming. I never streamed anything before, like games or anything else. It's just pure coding. So again, I'm checking it in a second. Third one should be username, and name should be username. And type, this one is just a simple text field without any special type. Okay, and let's just make a dummy on change handler. Yeah, this is kind of ugly, but I like to do this instead of binding methods in React. I do the property methods. Yeah, and form group is not defined. Yes, because I can't type. Form group. Okay, so it's building now. I have some time. I'm checking. Yeah, it's on my phone to do not need more computer power. Jesus, oh my God. Yeah, so what I will cover today, I just summed it up. Basically, I am building an API server for, I'm building a React application for a dummy API server. and I still can't type form properly. React module, what are requirements? Oh, and I see that one of you is developing on Windows 10. I always developed in Linux or Mac, but I don't think you will have any issues with doing this on Windows 10. npm and Node should run on Windows 10. So you should check create React app. This is the most user-friendly thing ever on the internet. So it's really made for beginners, but I still love it. I always use it. So you should check out this page. It bootstraps. It starts React applications for you with like a super simple set of commands, and it should work on Windows too. If it doesn't, just correct me in the chat. And yeah, in the meantime, we have some login screen already. Vue.js, I wouldn't say I have developed in Vue.js. I have done some play things with Vue.js, but never like huge production scale things. So I tried it out and it's cool. I really like it. Okay. Yeah, cool. Comments are over. I promise I will check it like every few minutes. I plan to put it on the TV so it would just shine into my face, but so it was too much for my computer. So as I said, we are trying to improve. I will just get we have better computers, so probably in the next stream we will just use a better one. This is also cool. It's a Mac and it should be powerful, but there is a lot going on with it now. Yeah, so let's continue this. Again, I know this by heart, but you can check the Material UI documentation. I didn't really like the margins there, so I'm just adding a little bit more margins. And so as you can notice, I'm not doing something like this stuff. There is no reason to make this. This one would be called a controlled component. There is no reason to put this into a controlled component because we are not representing the same. So this is the only field that can change that piece of the state. So I'm sure that if this changes the state, then it changes together with the state. I don't know if this makes sense. So you should really use controlled components when you have multiple input fields that change the same piece of state and you want to keep them in sync. Okay, and this is something from my library that I will open source soon. It doesn't have a doc yet, so I just want to show off the feel of it. So we are making a simple store here. It's similar to React state, but you can it's just an object, you can mutate it directly. And here we are telling it that this.store event.target.name equals event.target.value. So this is why I use this little name here, if you check it. Because this way I don't have to do an on-change handler for every single thing. I just use this name and then I can just do a general on-change event handler. Yeah, okay, so let's go on. And then in the end, we are going to need 2 buttons that we already have. So we will need, let me just, this one should be login. And the other one should be register, and on click here we would like to log in on clicking this, and on click here we would like to register. Okay, so we're going to need 2 more methods. One should be on login. We don't need any parameters here. I don't really care about the click event. And for now, it should just console log login, just console log the store, and we are going to do the same for the register. Okay, so it's building now, and in the meantime, we have these on change handlers. They are mutating the local store, which is kind of similar to React state. And we have these on register and on login things that are triggered with the button clicks. And for now, instead of logging in and registering, I just dump the state to the console. Yeah, cool cat. It's not working. I will think about the Windows issue. The sad part is that I can't even try it out because I don't have a Windows machine now. So I just told you that it should work from experience. Maybe it's changed. So let's go here. We have this login button and register button now. Yeah, this one is not hot reloading, it just reloads the page. And if I click, let's just put a username here. And this is my username usually. If I click on login, register, login, register, yeah, I just messed up this part here. Super slow. Okay, but if I click on login, you see that it just puts that, like, dumps the state into the console. It has an email, a pass, and a username, and this is the exact object that let's just try it again. It shouldn't have a username now. Yeah, email and pass. This is the object that the API server is expecting from us, so I am okay with this for now. It's not beautiful yet, but we will just improve it later. It's not time for the styling yet. So let's go one layer deeper. So I like to structure my apps that there is the view layer. It's just it abstracts away local state and properties and events and these kind of things. And then there is the global state layer, this one. Again, you can see that we have a little store here. I will tell you more about it later. It's coming from my React library. It's responsible for re-rendering on state changes. So there is one, like, a global state layer where I like to keep it pure, and I usually do only like basic JavaScript here with some Lodash maybe, and I call the third layer the API layer, which is responsible for the networking and these kind of things. So here we are going, maybe this is a bit too much boilerplate, you don't have to do this like this, but it just pays off in the long term. So we have a login, we have a register function, and here we are, for now we are just awaiting API.login. We have some login data that we are proxying to the API layer, and again we have some register data that we are proxying to the properties to make this work, I think. It's already about the Babel plugin transform class properties. It's I created this with Create React App. It already has that. Basically, the philosophy of Create React App is to include everything that's stable in the language, except for the few things that are like super commonly used in React applications. So you can do object spreads and you can do class properties in that. npm version should be it's 5. Yeah, you can see it here. It's 5.4.2, the npm version. So Create React App already has class properties, but for example, it doesn't have decorators because it is not that commonly used, and it shifts a lot. Class properties are already like stable. Yeah, so let's get back to the code. So we are just proxying to the API layer here. We are not doing anything for now. We will later. And we are getting here to the API layer. And I just called 2 functions here. So it would be like code to make those two functions. Export async function login, and we have boilerplate login data, and we have export async function register with some register data. And yeah, I have to cheat a bit here. We have to await API dot, I guess we are posting some data here. So for the networking, I use a library called Axios. I found it to be like the most stable without the least amount of issues. I don't need any fancy thing for this. I like it when it's just a simple HTTP abstraction. So I have to check Axios for this, and I also have to check the API server. So for login, let's check. For login, we need an email and a password. And for register, we need a username, an email, and a password. So at the login, there is an issue. The login data could have a username, as you see here. This one could leach into the login data. So I just have to login data equals pick login data, and we need email and pass here. Let's just import pick. I guess everybody knows Lodash. If you do not know that, it's a cool library still. It will slowly like get less and less relevant, but it still has some cool functions in it. It's like jQuery for data. Maybe that's the wrong way to put it. So and we need the login endpoint to call it with the login data. With async await, I think like a lot of people handle errors very eagerly. I don't like to do that. What I will do later is that I will have a global error handler here with these interceptors. I don't think it will fit into today's sessions, but as a very last resort, I like to have a global interceptor and error handler for the whole API, and if I totally can't do anything with the error and it like bubbled up all the way, I just like to put some notification there that something bad happens. I don't know, open it again, depending on the error message. I don't like it when people like use tons of try catches without having a proper fallback. So if you can't do anything except console log, when an error happens, it's the best to just handle it as late as possible, I think. That's my opinion. And then for the register, we are going to await API.post register. We don't need to pick anything here because it doesn't have too much information. Register data. Okay, so first things first, I have to check how to post with Axios. Yes, the body is the second parameter. Perfect. Okay, yeah. Let's see what's happening here. Const resp. Resp, and then we are just going to console log login response, and let's just do the same here with register. Okay, we be out for some time. Great. I'm getting better with the chat messages. I'm just checking them from time to time. So first, we would like to try a login. Yeah, I forgot to do something very important. So I have this App Store layer. It calls the API layer. But here at the view layer, I still do console log. So I want to import the global application store from App Store, and I just want to app store.login. There is no need to make this async now because obviously React won't wait for this. So Like if you know that something should be an async function, but it won't be called with a wait and nothing will wait for it, then and if it has like a single statement in it, then there is no point to make it a wait, like async await. If I would have two asynchronous things that I want to run in async sequence, then it would make sense to make this async await. But if I only have like one statement, then whatever. So this, and then here I want to register. Now it's going to build a bit. And then this is more like the boring part, but in the second part of the stream we will do some cool stuff, I promise. So if I click on the login, I did some networking, request fail, API/login not found. Maybe I used some messed up endpoint. We will see. API users, of course. I didn't check the documentation. So back to the API layer. Because of this layering, you usually know where you have to modify the code. So like here, I know that I missed this one. And let's check the registration here. Yeah, we also need the users prefix here. So /users/register. Okay, it's going to be better now. So first we are logging in, and as you can see, it succeeded. We have some return data, and yeah, perfect. So response.data has a user and a token here. This is so the server, Ruby server, it has a token-based authentication, which is, I think it's cool because that's the modern alternative, so we can just play around with that. So we are distracting the data here, and we are going to need data.token, do something with that, and then return data.user. So I don't want to return the token to the state level. I think that's better handled. Are you maintainer of Keystone? No, it's just out of here. I have to use Keystone. It shouldn't be there, it's just Chrome out of here. I use Keystone for one of my projects that I had to work on, and just stuck in there. So if you have any issues with Keystone, I can't really help. Maybe I can, but only like in speech. So I usually don't like to return the token to the state level. I like to handle it in this layer, the API layer, and for that we are going to need some extra magic from, again, my library. It's called storage from React RisingStack. This one is an object that is a normal object, but it is auto-synchronized with the local storage. So what you would like to do is, here you need some headers, and you would like to init the token as storage.token. This one basically fetches it from local storage with a little bit of extra smartness to be performant. And here you would, I have to check the Axios page just a sec. Defaults. So Axios defaults, headers, yeah, this one. So here we want to say that api.defaults.headers.token equals data.token. So the page is started. It tries to fetch the token from local storage. So this one is kept between sessions. If it doesn't find it there, you can still log in, and then it will it will tell the network layer to use that token from now on, and we also want to save the token in the local storage too. Okay, that's cool. So if we get back to, you won't see a lot of visual things for this, but if we help out later. So let's say that, super slow. So we are just logging in, and then we go to the application, we check the local storage, and you can see that we have the token saved here. Just ignore this. You know what? I will just clear all. Yeah. Okay. So let's just check it again. So this is a way to handle session management and authentication. So we are logging in.
Where do you play music?
And then we are checking, and as you can see, we have the token saved here, and it will also be automatically added as a header to all of the API requests from now on, even if we start a new session. So yeah, that's all. And we have to do the same thing for register, data, and register. Let's just see how register behaves. Yeah, I'm not. So let's just. As for registration, we also need a username, and we are going to register. Yay! It's just it reloads because of the new code. Just it's a bit slow. So we are registering now, and user successfully registered. Yeah. So after we are registered, we still have to log in, register data. We still have to log in. And we don't need data from here, it just throws an error. We need the data from here. Oh, you know what? We don't even need that. We just return login again. Because this is a promise, you don't really need a wait here. I will just I will delete it. Okay, so we have a successful login and register endpoint. Just to finish things, this is where we have to get back to the API, the state layer. We are just going to save the user that we get from here. So in the background, there's a user and the token returned. The token is abstracted away by the API layer, and the user is returned to the state layer that is going to modify the state. And then because of this little library here, the UI will automatically adapt. So I would use, if I would use the user in one of my components, it would just update after this. So that's it for the login, I guess. Maybe if we are here, we can also do let's do this later. Let's do something more exciting now. So I will just git and git commit message. Yeah, it's not the best message, but okay. So I just updated the code on the internet. You can find the link on the build, like at the comments, at the top of the comments for the stream, about the current state of the code. I try to upload it from time to time. And now we should do something more exciting. I don't know if you checked out Dan Abramov's suspense demo, but I will do something not that cool, but I will do something similar with today's React. And also add some animations and these kind of things. So for now we only have 2 pages and a tiny little bit of networking. So this is one of the pages where you have these, basically it filters products for you. The other page is the login page. This one is a more exciting one. You don't need login for this one. It's public. And we are going to optimize this for offline usage and slow networks and also fast networks. So it should work perfect in any condition. Because right now, if I hope I can slow things down enough. So yeah, if you didn't know about this stuff here, you can do a lot of cool things here. You can go offline, you can throttle your internet speed. At the performance tab, you can do the same with CPU. So you really can simulate any kind of device in Chrome. So we are switching to slow 3G, and I'm looking for some fresh stuff. And it just loads and loads and loads. And that's not very cool. One thing that I did earlier is I really hate it when people just render an empty screen with a loader when you do something instead of keeping the whole screen there. So I think the worst thing that you can do is to erase everything from the screen and just put a loader in the middle of things. So I like it more to, let's go back again. So I like it more to put a loader somewhere visible, but still let the user to play around with the whole screen. But if something is super slow, you could do something like the suspense demo that you are, I don't know, waiting like a second and then you try to display placeholders or do some more visual indication or these kind of things. So for this, we have to do a little refactor. Again, the routing is also handled by this, like my React library. And right now it doesn't have any resolving. So if you check the navbar, if someone searches for something, it just awaits for the App Store search to finish. The App Store search is proxying to the API layer, it is searching for some data, and when the data is returned, it just routes to this endpoint. And there are several issues with this. One of them is so actually this the biggest issue is that this search in the future it could be triggered by a lot of different actions. For example, I plan to add some history integration, browser history integration. That's one other source. It could be triggered by the same way that we triggered it now. We could add another button, and we want to trigger the same action for all of these kind of things. And it's better to move it to a general place, and that's the router. So we're going to just delete it from here, and we are going to go to the router, and a lot of routers have the notion of resolve. This is the search products, and this one also has it. So you could make a search products, there, just let me check the search filter. So, yes, and we don't need any parameters here. And this one should only just call appstore.search with params.search. And we're going to, params is an object representation of the current query parameters. So you can just get the search parameter from there. And we are going to need, I hope this makes sense. It will get better. So we are going to need App Store from our application store, and we have the resolving here. So now it should work better. It's just building. Yeah, it works. It's just a super slow building process. Oh yeah, because I'm still on slow 3G. Sorry about that. I just throttled my internet connection. Okay, cool. So it works the same way as it did earlier. Not yet. Oh, because I messed it up. Yeah, sorry. This one, and this one doesn't belong here. Resolve is a more refined thing. So this one tells it to call this function and await the async result of it before routing to this page. I just put it in the wrong place. So if we just come here again and do some, yeah, so it works the same way as it did. And if you check it, we don't have any history integration. That's on purpose. That's the default behavior of the library. But if you go here, tell it to add new history items, then you will see what I told about. So it's reloading now. It didn't add history items because by default it doesn't add history items if the URL path name doesn't change. And now we only change the, so like fresh, all. And if you check it, we are going back. We have another source of the action and still it updates properly and waits for everything. So it's better to move this general logic into router resolving instead of just calling it every time from every source, if this makes sense. And because of this, we can make something cool. So this one is done. And we also want to tell our router, this one belongs here. Yeah, this parameter tells the router that, hey router, wait X milliseconds for resolving the data before routing. But if the time passes, I just don't care. I want to show something different to the user because he or she expects it. So if 800 milliseconds passes and we still don't have the data, just display the page that the user wants to go to. Doesn't matter if the data is not ready. Yeah. So we are also going to need one more thing to make this perfect, kind of. Yeah, just to show it off before we get to that. This.props. This is a property that is toggled for pages that has routing and resolving with them. So if the page is not resolved yet, then return paragraph. That's still loading. It will get nicer. So just yeah, so just display still loading. And hopefully we can just make the internet slow enough because Robbie's API server is amazing, it's super fast. So let's make it slow 3G. And let's go to the login and search for Rustic. I just messed something up, just a second. This props. I will sort it out in a second. Maybe it was not resolved. Fragments, it's a virtual DOM element. It is only represented in the virtual DOM, but it doesn't render out to be like a DOM element. So if you you know that it's still kind of it's a pain to return like arrays or multiple elements in React render. So you always have to put it in a single element. And people usually just use a totally needless div or paragraph or something like that. Sorry, I am looking at the comment, it's on my phone. So people usually use a div for that, and it just renders a totally useless div into the real DOM. And in this case, you can just use a fragment, which is like removed after the VDOM div thing is ready, so it's not rendered out. I'm just trying to figure out what's wrong with this. Just a second. I am missing something. So this should be nice, but it is not nice yet. Resolved, it's always resolved. I might have to cheat a bit. I created something similar to this before, so I can cheat if something is messed up. Resolve, search product. Yes, of course. Oh, yeah. So this happens if you are not using async function. Remember, if you were here, I told you that if you know that the function that you are creating is going to be called in a synchronous way, and you are not in charge of calling that function, then there is no point in making it async for a single statement, because you don't have, like, if you would have multiple statements, it would make, and you would like to run them in sequential async mode, then it would make sense to put them in an async function. But in this case, this one should be an async function, because I know that the router is going to wait for that. So I should await fstore.search. This is what caused the bug, because this one resolved immediately. It pretended to wait for some data, but it didn't wait for the data. Now it should work. I think it's a good practice. It's always nice to avoid div soups. So depends on your taste. If you check the last stream, I made a lot of mistakes in that one, and I also made a couple of mistakes with fragments. So still loading. It's right there. Cool. So sorry, I will continue with that one. I just want to. So if I search for something else now, it waits for 800 milliseconds. Just decides that this was enough, and then it displays some fallback, and then after that it goes to rustic wooden wall. Yeah, faker. And if we are on a super fast network, then it resolves in less than 800 milliseconds, and you don't see any of this kind of thing. So it's similar to the suspend thing. And now to make it even cooler, we will make it offline first. So, and we will replace that ugly is loading thing. So it should work offline in bad network conditions, shaky conditions, and good conditions too. Yeah. So this is a small application. So I am going. So the application shell, the shiny thing that you see here, that is not the data, like this application bar and these kind of things. It's already offline cached by create React app. So we only have to cache the data layer, the stuff that is returned by the API. It's doable for small applications. If you have a big application, it's super difficult to do that. I never managed to do that. I never tried it to do it for big application. So what we are going to do, we are going to use the local storage, and as a first step we are going to go to the API layer, and before returning this thing we just we will create a little cache in the local storage, and we are going to save the returned products in that cache, and we will also need, just to avoid type error messages, so we will just do some default stuff for the storage. We will need a cache, which should be an empty object. Yes. Yeah, and before returning the data, we just put it in the local storage cache that we created. Okay, and then we are getting back to the product list. And instead of this, we will do that. Const products props dot page resolved. So if the page is resolved, the products should be the App Store products, because we already have them. It's safe to display them. If it's not resolved, then we would like to get so we would like to get the storage cache, the products from the storage cache for the current query parameter, search query parameter, and if everything else fails, we would like to display an empty array. We will just improve the empty array thing later. Okay, let's see if it works. So this one made the application offline resilient, I will show you. And no new comments, cool. So, okay, first case we have a fast internet. You're searching, everything happens below the 800 millisecond timeout that we did. Second scenario, we are searching at super slow internet. That is my sound. Something is not okay. I will check it in a second. Fresh. Yeah, it's still messed up. Yeah, this one here. We want to use the new products. Yeah, I just did this super awesome fallback thing, and I still used the data from the API instead of using this. Yeah, thanks for the comments. We are still on slow internet. Just a sec. Keep forgetting that. Okay, so demo round 2. Sorry for always searching for Elastic and Fresh, but I know that Faker loves these words, so just use these. So fast internet, everything is perfect. Then we go to slow internet, and we search for Elastic. And as you can, yeah, this might not be obvious, but what happens here is that I search for Fresh. It times out, it displays the cached data, from the local storage. So the API didn't return yet. See, it doesn't have cached data now. And now the API returns. And if I search for Fresh, and I search for bowl again, now it has the cache data, it displays the cache data, and when the API finally returns, it updates the cache data with the new kind of stuff. So if somebody added a new bowl in the meantime, it would just get displayed in the bottom. And to do an offline demo, we will need, so I can't showcase the offline capabilities now because I am on localhost, and service workers doesn't work on localhost and they doesn't work on HTTPS. So I'm going to yeah, this was not entirely true what I said, but just trust me, I am going to need to build the application and serve it on my local network. So this will take some time, and I will just npm run build, and then I will use a local server to serve it. And in the meantime, I don't know if there are any newcomers, but I will just do a little tour. I will do a little tour of the code because this will take some time because my computer has to do a lot of things at once. So again, yeah, I forgot to mention this. I only have this CSS. For this project, I decided to use I'm getting tired. So I decided to use Material UI, and I do the styling with the simplest inline style attributes that you can imagine. Material UI has a kind of theme and context mechanism, but I don't need this for this project. So the advised way of doing this with Material UI is to use a kind of similar syntax, but with a wrapper of Material UI that provides you with context about the theme and these kind of things. But I really don't need this for a small project. And then you could of course use just CSS or less or any other thing. For less and sass, you will have some trouble with Create React App because it doesn't have support for them out of the box, but it can be hacked together without a lot of trouble. Yeah, it builds and npm run. This is a command that I just wrote. I plan to maybe put this thing on the internet, and for that, yeah. Okay. Yeah, forget what I told you about service workers. They don't work without HTTPS, but they do work on localhost. It didn't work because it is disabled in create React app if you are not in production mode. So it didn't work for the npm start development server command. And now let's just so offline mode is no magic. It can't search for things that you haven't searched before. It caches things that you did before and tries to fall back to that thing. So if I search for Rustic here, and I search for ball here, and then I totally turn off the internet, I can only check this box here. Of course I can't go offline because you wouldn't see me. Don't want to do that. And I try to reload the page. You can see that the page is still working because things were cached by the service worker of Create React App, and you still see data here. So you can actually search for ball, you can search for Rustic, but if you try to search for something that you fresh, wooden, this shouldn't be here. Just a second. Yeah, sorry about this. This is actually a nice lesson. So I won't get into much depth here, but this is not the application that I am currently developing. It's an application that it's a demo of this application that I did a few hours ago, and it was stuck in my offline cache. This is an issue with service workers. If you do offline first application, it favors the offline stuff instead of the network stuff, so you have to double open pages to actually get the latest data. I will get back to this in the next session, how to handle this like elegantly. You just have to get some inspiration from actual apps. So yeah, we are still offline and we are reloading the page, and I totally deleted everything from the cache, so of course it didn't work. We went online. I hope you can follow me. I searched for wooden, I searched for rustic, I searched for ball, but I did not search for fresh. Now I go offline, I reload. Jesus, why is it not working? No, I don't want to disable the cache. Sorry, demo is taking some time, so let's search for rustic, let's search for wooden, and I don't know what's happening here. I'm trying to figure it out. Sorry about this. Service worker offline just doesn't register the service worker. Just a second, I might have to rebuild it again, and then if it doesn't work now, I will just go on with some animations and then get back to this, because this is an important part and I really want to like showcase how to do this. And I don't want to make this very long, so I think I will just finish it in like half an hour at max. Production build is going on, and I don't even want to build like write code while it is building. So in the meantime, I will just speak about this library that I'm building currently. It has routing and state management, among other things. And for the state management, it has two parts. It has store and it has view. And the idea is that view is monitoring like this wrapper here. It monitors which store properties the app component uses. So it sees that there is a store. It doesn't matter if it's a local store or if it's a global store or where it is coming from, but it sees that there is a store from this file here. Sorry, let's get back to that. Yeah, so it sees that there is a store from another file, and this component is using the isLoading property of the store. So whenever isLoading is changed, it will just re-render this thing. And this is why you see that loader on the top of the app bar usually. Yeah, super cool. So npm run now start. Let's give it another try. And then you can also have like local stores that we have at the login screen. So this one, this store is an instance on the component itself. It doesn't matter if it's global or local. If the store changes and the render is using something from the store, the component just gets re-rendered. Here it is not using anything from the store actually, but if I would turn these into controlled components, it would be pretty handy. For the picture, depends on, I am only caching the data now, but you could cache anything. So that's why I told you that making offline first apps with data offline first support in a large scale is like a total pain, and then you will mess it up. You will. So probably people will mess it up, including me. It's very painful to do it. This is just, so the huge amount of data is just part of the picture. The other part is that you have to deal with cache hit and cache miss, and if the user is not totally offline but only has a shaky connection, you have to update the real-time data if someone has stuff to it. So to make a good UX with that, it takes some effort, a lot of effort. So let's do another one. No, we are not offline yet. Now Chrome just gave up on me. My computer is getting slower and slower with the stream, so yeah, cool. Now it works. And we will need a developer console and search for a few stuff here. So again, I'm going to search for Rustic, and I'm going to search for Bowl, and developer tool is not working. Okay, npm start. So in the meantime, I am waiting for the developer tool to get back together, and in the meantime I am going to add some animations to it, and after that I will just let my Mac rest a bit, I think, and we will continue in the next session, maybe next week or maybe 2 weeks from now on, depending if we have any other streams planned. Yeah, awesome. Seems to work now in a super slow way. Clear storage. I messed up again. The service worker is not working here. I will have to put this thing on the internet then. So I'm just doing a few animations and I will just put it on the internet. You can try it out, and I will demo the offline usage there because I got the rules of service workers wrong. So I'm getting more tired by the end of the stream. So about animations, I plan to add just some slight transitions. So again, the animation is handled by this library here. It uses the web animation API in the background, so without the polyfill, it's only supported in a few browsers. I am working on this. This one is not open source yet, so this will change before I make it open source, but for now, that's the case. So I would like an opacity that goes from 0 to 1, and I would like some transforms, and for the enter animation, it should go from translate y minus 10 pixels probably to none. And options, it should take around 150 milliseconds. You can add a lot more options here about smoothing and control and speed and these kind of things. But I just reverse this by hand, so I want to fade it out with the leave animation, and I'm going from none to 10 pixels. Options are okay, and for the router I just tell it that enter animation should be enter animation, surprise, and leave animation should be leave animation. Yeah, cool. Hopefully I didn't mess it up. So we are getting to localhost. React app. It's still building, that's why it's so slow. Okay, and if we are going to the login screen and we are searching for something, it's super slow because my computer is really struggling now, but it can't really get any faster. Yeah, it can be accelerated even though it's super slow. So I only use translate and I only use opacity. So it is GPU accelerated, but yeah, I also stick with these kind of animations. Nice sliding opacity, yeah. So if you check it, it's cached, it should be fast, but still it's very slow. I'm just going back to the login. And let's just put it on the internet, and I will demo a few things after that. npm run deploy. Hope this works. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, let me speak about this deploy command. So I wanted to do this deploy command real time at the end of the last session, but it got super slow and I couldn't wait for it. So I'm using a service called Now. It's free for open source and small projects. And you can just put things on the internet with a single command. What it does for Node.js projects or JavaScript projects is that it looks for the package JSON at the root level. And it looks for a build and the start command and just runs these, you know, like basically npm run starts and npm run build. But in our case, the start command is for development mode. So you can customize these with the now prefix. This says now to use this command instead. So now just copies the whole thing into an immutable deployment instance on the internet. It runs the build, it runs now start, which uses this serve. It's an open source server for simple applications in a single page mode. And after that it creates an alias, you will see it. So assigning alias, so we should have the thing deployed. You can actually check it. Now.sh. Yeah, the name of it is generate concrete salads to pay a little tribute to Faker. Paint changing good. Yeah, I just did some animations, but probably it was so laggy that you wouldn't see it. So now this one is actually on the internet. So let me just I can't promise it will stay on the internet. Probably we will take it down like tomorrow, but you can just push it for now. And I cannot promise that it works in other browsers because the library that I use is not open source yet, and for a reason I only optimize it for Chrome yet. So I still have a lot of coding to do. So if you are pushing it in any other browser than Chrome or maybe Firefox and Opera, just don't expect it to work. Maybe in a few weeks it will. I am working on it. Maybe you will see a little inception kind of thing here. logged in. Okay, sorry guys. I will just drop the comment in the chat after the stream is over. I don't want to log in a stream. So if you would like to, it's called generic concrete salads.now.sh. You can just type it in and try it out. I will just provide a link. If somebody could just type in the link to the chat, that would be awesome. And now it's on the internet, so before I say goodbye, I can finally demo the offline capabilities of it. So I already opened the application. I search for Rustic. I search for Fresh, but I do not search for anything else. And I try to go offline without any success. You know what? I will just kill my terminal and everything else because I won't need it anymore. Also Atom. So I'm demoing now. Oh yeah, better, cool. So I already searched for Fresh and Rustic. Wow, this was fast. And finally, I probably can go to the network. Thanks. Nice. Yeah, thanks, Andy. Computer doesn't want to do that. Yeah, cool. And now I can go offline. Super slowly. Okay, and now if I reload the page, super awkward. So Fresh, Rustic. I don't think this is an issue with the code. I think there is something else going on that I can't really figure out, but because it just worked fine for the last few tries. Bypass networks, service workers, doesn't recognize a service worker. Okay, so I think we will deal with the offline caching in the next session because I really don't see what's the issue here. Somebody doesn't register the service worker, but the idea is still the same, that I just try to showcase how to make applications that work for slow connections and fast connections and also work offline. We will make it more user-friendly in the next session. It's there are still a few very important things to do. One is to display like errors that you don't have any fallback mechanism for. The other one is to let the user know that the application works in offline mode and display all the drawbacks that comes with this, that you have to like refresh or update the web page if a new version is available. So it's closer to applications that way. And maybe I forget what else, but I would also love to add some notifications about being offline, so these kind of things. So we will have at least one more stream, and see you later and play around with the application. But again, I only guarantee that it works in Chrome. Okay, see you next time.